Thank you very much, Carlos, and good morning to everybody. It's a pleasure to be here and to see so many people. I would like by taking as a starting point where Stefan left it, and to thank Stefan and his team for all the work that they've done, which is quite impressive. What I'm going to present to you now is our first ideas. These are ideas, so we're less definitive even than what Stefan said, to discuss with you today. So we're hoping to get input from all of you into what we are doing for the strategic guidelines for aquaculture. These strategic guidelines will be aiming to try to get concerted action between the Commission, so the European Union, and the Member States for the sustainable growth of aquaculture. We have to work together because there's many competencies that come into play here. So I would like to perhaps start off, if this works. I've gone too fast. These are FAO data that you see on the screen. These are the global trends in seafood production. So you see that capture fishery basically has peaked worldwide, while aquaculture is projected to grow a lot. And in the second slide, you will see the difference between the projected consumption in 2020 worldwide. Again, you see world consumption on the left. In the center, you see world aquaculture production, which is estimated to grow by about 30%. And the little guy here on the right, it's us. So you see that there's a big difference. There's a big gap. In the next slide, you will see very quickly the situation in the EU. This is what we consume today. You see that 25% comes from fisheries, 10% from aquaculture, the rest we imported, all of it. And this is where we think there's the scope for growth. Looking at this, I think it makes it quite visible in a very graphic way. I don't want to go into too much detail now because I don't have a lot of time. But if we take, based on current labor productivity and the level of investment now, each percentage point that we can cover in terms of that food consumption that we can produce internally through sustainable aquaculture can create about 2,000 full-time jobs and mobilize investment for about 30 to 50 million euros. So that's quite a lot of money, and it's quite a lot of jobs. We've seen that locally the impact of aquaculture can be quite big. So, our thinking so far. We've based ourselves on the input that we've had from you through several layers of consultation that we've had over the years and after Salzburg as well, and we've of course also used what we have seen from the work of the JRC, which was very useful for us. So, one main issue that was raised by Stefan several times is licensing, is administrative burden, is how long it takes to get things done for aquaculture producers. This is a very telling illustration of what I mean. And what you can see here is several targets. You see these are the very long blue lines, the time it takes. You see it goes up to almost 24 months. So it's a very, very long time to get a license. The red bar you see is the average licensing time for offshore wind farms in the EU. So we are doing worse than that even. The orange line is the typical licensing time that it takes to get a license for an agricultural farm in one of the member states. I think it was France. So again, very striking difference. And the green line that you have at the very left is the target licensing time that we have now as a benchmark for small and medium enterprises in the Small Business Act of the EU. So you see again here a huge gap. So there's a huge work that we need to do together here. And this is one of the things that we've highlighted in the document, and we would like to see and to discuss with you the possibility of having a clear target to go down. As I said, there's a lot of work to be done here by all of us. There's things that the EU, we are remote from the ground and we don't deliver licenses, but there's things we can do too. You know, there's an ongoing process of reduction of burden for SMEs that is now managed by the European Commission. To give you a couple of examples very quickly, the full electronic VAT invoicing system that was introduced, that was voted now by Council and Parliament, that concerns more than 22 million taxable enterprises in the EU, is projected to deliver midterm savings for enterprises in the range of 18.4 billion euro in the midterm. So that's a lot of money. Another example is when SMEs have to publish changes in the register in the official journals in the member states, which is not something that you necessarily need to do. This is something that the Commission has proposed and Council and Parliament are looking at, can deliver for 4 million SMEs in the European Union a saving range of around 600 million euros. So again, a lot of money. And simplification, which we need. We would also like to look at the possibility of working, I'll talk about the Aquaculture Advisory Council later because that's an important part, in going ahead and do a serious mapping of where these administrative bottlenecks and red tapes is exactly, because we hear a lot that there are problems, there's red tape, there's things that can be simplified, but we don't really know where they are, even when we ask. So this is something that we would really like to get a better picture of. The second issue, Stefan again mentioned it, and you've mentioned it a lot, is space. So how you can make sure that you have equal conditions for access to space. And based on, again, what we've heard, what we are proposing is that the member states, we will hear examples later of how this is done already, so it's a good practice, put in place coordinated spatial planning. This is something that can be of benefit. It gives clarities to national governments, will give clarity to business, will give clarity to stakeholders as well, as rational choices are made that take the place of random decisions that suffer a lot from this patchy way of doing aquaculture. This graph here is an illustration. We're not suggesting, of course, that all of this space is used for aquaculture, but just to give you an idea, graphic, visual, of the potential space that there is out there for aquaculture in the member states. And as you can see, in some cases, it's quite big. So there's certainly something that can be done. The third area of intervention that we would like to look at is diversification. This is something that is mainly going to be for business to do, because this is basically one of the fundamental things that a businessman does. This concerns a number of things, though. I would not like to look at diversification just as in a limited way. There are possibilities to look at stocking costs, feed costs, energy costs, labor costs, post-harvest handling costs, marketing, packaging, combination of aquaculture with other types of economic activities is also possible. And this is something that we think very strongly requires a focusing of the money that is available at EU level and at national level for research as one of the main components that may drive things forward. Now, in order for this to happen, there needs to be a more coordinated action between the use of EU funds and national funds so that it delivers concrete results for you and at the same time delivers the sustainable growth of aquaculture that we're all after. The last point that we've highlighted in the document is the high standards of EU aquaculture. We have a very good production in the EU that respects high environmental standards, animal health, consumer protection requirements. These are, we think, competitive advantages that need to be tapped on better. We need to do better at using them. The proximity of our production compared to imports that come from far, far, far is something that also needs to be brought to light. And here we are really counting on action from everybody to support the development of producer associations that manage to give better access to the market to EU locally produced aquaculture fish, to support and implement and control labeling requirements, because for labeling requirements of high quality, the consumer will need to make sure that these standards are controlled and they are reliable. We think we need to also work to improve the image of aquaculture. And there's quite a lot of work to be done here too, both again at national level and at EU level, and we are reflecting on how to do that better. And finally, again, coming back to the Aquaculture Advisory Council that I will be talking about now, there's also, we believe a lot also in having good, balanced advisory councils that can actually bring together all of the concerns of the stakeholders so that self-regulation becomes easier than it is now, instead of waiting for hard legislation that comes from the top and that of course can only deliver partial results because it's not something that necessarily public authorities have to do for you. Before I go and say a word about the advisory councils, the next steps. This is always something that I get questions on, so I may as well come up front now. We are going to collect feedback for another couple of weeks, so all of you here and all of those who are watching us in streaming from home can send us comments for the next couple of weeks. We will take them in every language and we will try to process them and feed them into the work that we are doing. And then the clock is going to tick really fast. We are targeting to have the guidelines adopted at the end of February, hopefully. And we do this because, as you know, at the end of 2013, it's a very important deadline. It's the deadline that we have set for the national plans, national strategic plans on aquaculture, which coincides with the submission of the multi-annual plans for the new EMFF. And this link is very important because we want to make sure that new EMFF money is used to deliver on the objectives or to support the choices that will be made by the member states in their national plans. I've referred already a lot to the Advisory Council for Aquaculture. This is also going to be an important moment in the setup of this. Again, in terms of timetable, we have to wait until the reform is, of course, adopted. But we need to start preparing and thinking and making sure, as I said before, that we get a really good, balanced representation of all stakeholders in the Advisory Council for Aquaculture. I think I can stop here. Thank you very much.